high risers. This is the story for you. Without any delay, let's begin the story. Part 1. Facing the fear. Have you ever felt that gut-wrenching feeling, the one that wraps itself around your chest like a vice, squeezing the air from your lungs? That sharp, invisible hand that clenches your insides when you're standing on the edge of something new, uncertain, and terrifying? You know the one. When your heart races like a drum in a war zone, your palms drip with sweat, and your thoughts turn against you like traitors. It's not just fear. It's self-doubt disguised as logic, whispering, "Turn back. You're not ready. You'll fail." But let me ask you, what if that fear, the very emotion you've been taught to avoid, is actually the signpost guiding you toward your breakthrough? You see, we've all been conditioned to think fear is the enemy, that if we're afraid, something must be wrong. But I say, fear isn't a stop sign. It's a signal. It's the fire alarm of your potential screaming. Wake up. Greatness lies this way. I get it. You're thinking, how do I run towards something that makes me want to freeze, hide, and vanish? But pause for a second and think. What happens if you don't? What happens if you keep living under the ceiling of your own comfort zone? What dreams will you bury just to stay safe? What versions of yourself will die quietly inside, just so no one sees you stumble? There was a time not too long ago when I was trapped in that exact prison. Not a physical one, but one made of what-ifs and I'm not enoughs. I was afraid of trying, afraid of standing out, afraid of failing in front of people who were too scared to even try themselves. I avoided challenges like they were minefields. I played it safe, thinking that was smart. But let me tell you something that cracked me wide open. Avoiding fear doesn't protect you. It suffocates you. It was a regular day when I had a hard conversation with myself. The kind of moment where the mask slips off, the ego shuts up, and the truth punches you right in the chest. I realized I wasn't running from failure. I was running from my own power. I was terrified of becoming who I was truly meant to be, because that would mean responsibility, discipline, and letting go of excuses. And here's the raw truth. It's not the fear of failure that holds most people back. It's the fear of success and the weight it brings. There's a quote that hit me like lightning. Fear is the brain's way of saying that there is something important for you to overcome. Unknown. Let that sink in. Fear doesn't show up when you're doing nothing. It only screams when you're about to do something that matters. It's like a compass. The louder it yells, the more certain you can be that you're walking straight into growth, straight into transformation. You know what's ironic? The things I feared most, the conversations, the decisions, the leaps, turn out to be the doors I needed to kick open to become the person I was pretending I already was. I had to stop waiting to feel ready. I had to stop needing a guarantee. I had to lace up my courage, bite down on my insecurities, and run full speed into the thing that made my bones tremble. It wasn't easy. It wasn't clean. I fell. I stumbled. I embarrassed myself more than once. But I got up, and every time I did, I realized something powerful. Fear is temporary. Regret is forever. Unknown. And let me tell you, regret is a far more vicious monster than fear will ever be. The truth is, facing your fear isn't about being fearless. That's a myth. Courage is about acting despite fear. It's about walking into the fire, not because you're not afraid, but because you've decided your dreams matter more than your comfort. I want to ask you something bold. What's one thing you've been avoiding? That idea, that phone call, That next step that makes your heart race just thinking about it, that's your fear calling you out. And it's daring you to step up. You want to win? You want to become the version of yourself that keeps you awake at night? Then stop treating fear like your enemy and start treating it like a guide. Because the truth is, fear lives in the same house as purpose. Wherever there's fear, there's a door to transformation. And that door, it only opens when you run towards it, not away. So today, I challenge you not to eliminate your fear, but to listen to it, confront it, and move anyway. Because on the other side of that fear is something beautiful: clarity, power, victory. Everything you've ever wanted is on the other side of fear. George Adair. And you're not weak. You're not broken. You're just standing on the edge of the next version of you. So take a deep breath, tighten your fists, and run. Because victory doesn't wait behind you. It lives ahead, right where fear stands guard. Part 2. The moment of truth. Have you ever felt that razor-sharp tension in your chest? The kind that only shows up when you're standing at the edge of something massive? That moment where it feels like time slows down, your thoughts scream in every direction, and you're caught between two voices, one telling you to jump, the other begging you to step back? That moment, that brutal, defining second, isn't just a pause in time. It's the line between who you've been and who you're about to become. We all face it sooner or later. It's not always dramatic. Sometimes it comes quietly, a decision, a confrontation, a stage, a chance. But the weight of that moment is always the same, because in that moment, it's not about your skills, your background, or your excuses. It's about one thing only: your willingness to leap. Let me tell you a real story. I had a friend, intelligent, charismatic, and full of fire. But when it came to public speaking, he would shrink into himself. The mere thought of standing in front of a crowd made his hands tremble and his voice disappear. He would dodge every opportunity, make every excuse in the book, and mask it all under the phrase, "It's just not for me." But the truth? He was afraid. Afraid of being seen. Afraid of being judged. Afraid that if he opened his mouth, people would see right through him. Then came that moment. He was selected, without warning, to speak at a massive seminar. Hundreds of eyes. A spotlight. A stage. He wanted to say no, to run, to fake an illness, to disappear. But as he stood there backstage, drowning in anxiety, a single thought flashed through his mind like lightning. If I run from this now, this fear will own me for the rest of my life. That was his moment of truth. Not when he stepped onto the stage, not when he began to speak, but right there, when he chose not to run. That's the moment that changes everything. Because fear doesn't vanish. It's not magic. But when you stop giving it the wheel, when you stare it in the face and move anyway, that's when it begins to lose its power. So he walked out, stiff, scared, but standing tall. He grabbed the mic. His voice cracked. His hands shook. His eyes darted nervously, and for a few seconds, he felt like he was falling off a cliff. But then something shifted. He kept going. One word led to another, and something incredible happened. People listened. They didn't laugh. They didn't judge. They connected. Because here's a truth most people don't realize. Vulnerability is more powerful than perfection. The audience didn't want a flawless robot. They wanted someone real. Someone who dared to show up, sweat and all. And when it was over, when the applause echoed through the room. He wasn't the same person who walked on that stage. He wasn't just someone who gave a speech. He was someone who had just slayed a dragon inside himself. Courage is not the absence of fear. It is acting in spite of it. Mark Twain. That day didn't just make him stronger. It redefined him. Because the real win wasn't the speech, it was the conquest of fear. And you know what? He never feared public speaking again. Not because it became easy, but because he now understood the formula. Fear plus action equals growth. You don't grow by staying safe. You grow by getting scarred, by risking something, by standing in the fire and realizing that you're built for it. So many of us waste years avoiding our own stage. We convince ourselves that the fear means not now, that we'll act when we feel more confident, when we're more prepared, when the timing is perfect. But let me drop a hard truth. Confidence doesn't come before action. It comes after it. You don't wait for bravery. You build it, step by shaking step. Fear isn't the enemy. It's the arena. In your moment of truth, it's waiting for you to show up. So ask yourself, what stage are you avoiding? What conversation have you delayed? What leap have you been too afraid to take? You already know what it is. That thing your gut won't let go of. That opportunity that keeps circling back. That dream that's whispering your name in silence. That's your edge. Don't just toe it. Run to it. Jump. Bleed if you must. But don't walk away. Because when you do, when you choose action over fear, you don't just win. You transform. And from that moment on, you'll never see fear the same way again. Quote to remember, your greatest growth is on the other side of your fear. Unknown. And your moment of truth, it isn't waiting in some distant future. It's here, right now. So don't hesitate. Run toward it. Part 3, the battle within. Now let's talk about the real battlefield. Not the stage, not the challenge in front of you, but the space between your ears. When you're standing face to face with fear, the hardest battle isn't with the world, it's with yourself. It's not just the situation that grips you. It's the mental storm, the chaos, the doubts, the voices. You know the voice I'm talking about, the one that creeps in just when you're about to do something brave. The one that whispers, "You're not ready. You'll embarrass yourself. You're not good enough. Who do you think you are?" It doesn't scream. It seduces. And the worst part? It sounds exactly like you. That's fear. Not the kind that jumps out at you in the dark. This fear wears a suit and speaks with authority. It pretends to protect you. It masks itself as caution. But here's the brutal truth. That voice is lying. Fear doesn't show up to protect your life. It shows up to protect your comfort. And comfort? That's where dreams go to die. I once read a quote that hit me like a punch to the gut. Fear kills more dreams than failure ever will. Susie Kassem. Read that again. Slowly. Because fear doesn't attack your body. It goes straight for your soul. It convinces you to play it safe, to shrink, to doubt. And once it wins that inner war, it doesn't have to lift a finger. You stop yourself. You pull back from the leap. You talk yourself out of the risk. You bury your passion under practicality. That's the real death. Not failure, but never trying. Let me take you deeper. The internal battle is where 90% of people lose. They never even make it to the battlefield because they were defeated in their own mind first. They believed the lie before they ever took the chance. You think the enemy is out there? It's not. The enemy is the inner voice that keeps saying, maybe later, maybe when you're better, maybe when you're braver. But let me tell you something that shifted my entire mindset. You don't become brave and then act. You act, and that's what makes you brave. Bravery is not a precondition. It's a consequence. You won't feel ready. You won't feel fearless. You won't have all the answers. And that's okay, because fear doesn't mean stop. It means you're exactly where you're supposed to be. See, when that voice inside your head gets loud, when it tries to paralyze you, you don't have to fight it with logic. You fight it with action. You respond with something stronger. I hear you, fear, but I'm doing it anyway. I know I might fall, but I'm going to rise. I know I'm scared, but I am not a prisoner to this emotion. You don't wait for the fear to go away. You move through it like a storm. One breath, one step, 1 second at a time. Because what's on the other side? Freedom, the power that lives in those who dare, the strength that doesn't shout but endures, the self-respect that only comes from doing what most people run from. It's in these moments, when your hands are shaking, when your knees are weak, when your heart pounds like a war drum, that you're being tested. Not by the world, but by yourself. You can't cheat this moment. You can't fake your way through it. You either fold or you rise. And when fear is screaming in your face, you have one job. Be louder. I will not shrink. I will not surrender. I will not live a small life. Because you didn't come this far to stop now. You didn't break through the first 2 layers of fear just to let this internal voice steal your fire. Let me share something deeply personal. There was a day I had to speak to someone I respected, to confront a truth I had buried for years. My heart felt like it would explode. My mind tried to talk me out of it. You're not ready, it said. This isn't the right time. But deep down I knew this was the moment. Not tomorrow. Not next week. Now. So I acted. Scared, yes, but bold. And that one conversation didn't just free my voice. It freed my identity. Don't wait for your feelings to match your mission. Move, and your feelings will catch up. This is the inner war that no one talks about. It's not glamorous. It doesn't have an audience. But it's the war that shapes your destiny. So if you're in it right now, if you feel like you're losing your mind, your strength, your certainty, I want to remind you, this is where warriors are forged, not in victories, but in the fire of doubt. The moment you say, I'm going to run towards you, fear, not away. You're not just surviving, you're winning. Because every second you stand tall in the face of fear, you become someone even fear can't shake. Quote to anchor this chapter. Tell the voice inside your head to shut up and let your soul speak instead. Part 4. The Transformation. Let me take you to a place few people dare to visit. A place not found on any map, not marked by signs or signals, but one that lives deep within every human soul. It's the space where transformation happens. And no, it's not cozy. It's not comfortable. It's not padded with safety nets and backup plans. Transformation is violent, messy, uncertain. It begins the moment you stop running away from fear and start running towards it. Because that's where your life changes. Let me share with you a story, raw and real. I once met a woman who carried the silent weight of rejection like it was stitched into her skin. Every time she looked in the mirror, she saw failure in advance. Every time someone smiled at her, she doubted their intention. Every time opportunity knocked, she locked the door and turned off the lights. She wasn't lazy. She wasn't unambitious. She was simply terrified of being told she wasn't enough. This fear seeped into everything, relationships, friendships, career, even her dreams. She became a master of disguise, smiling on the outside, screaming on the inside. She lived in a cage made not of steel, but of hesitation. Until one day, she snapped, not in defeat, but in defiance. Enough. Enough hiding. Enough shrinking. Enough assuming the answer would always be no before she even asked the question. So, she did something terrifying. She walked straight into the storm. She applied for the job she thought she wasn't qualified for. She reached out to the person who ghosted her. She posted her art online, the same art she had buried in drawers for years. She opened herself up to criticism, to vulnerability, to the possibility of pain. And yes, she was rejected. Several times. It stung. It bruised. But it didn't break her. Because every no taught her something. Every failure sharpened her resilience. Every door slammed shut revealed another one she had never noticed before. Rejection is not the end. It's a redirection. Unknown. Slowly, something inside her began to shift. She wasn't just chasing dreams. She was becoming someone new. Every time she faced what once paralyzed her, she grew stronger. Not just in confidence, but in identity. She started waking up with fire in her chest, not dread. She stopped apologizing for taking up space. She spoke louder, walked taller, loved harder. She didn't just overcome fear, she outgrew it. Because here's the truth no one tells you. Fear loses its grip the moment you stop treating it like a god and start treating it like a guide. Fear isn't there to punish you. It's there to point you toward your next level. And that's what transformation really is. It's not about achieving something flashy or becoming someone else. It's about remembering who you were before fear rewrote your story. That woman didn't become a new person. She became herself, the version of her that had always been waiting beneath the weight of what-ifs and maybes. You might think that's her. She's strong. I'm not like that. But let me ask you, how do you think she became strong? She wasn't born with a superpower. She wasn't handed courage on a silver plate. She earned it one trembling decision at a time. You gained strength, courage, and confidence by every experience in which you stopped to look fear in the face. Eleanor Roosevelt. That power? It lives in you too. But you have to decide. Decide to stop letting fear speak louder than your future. Decide to step into the unknown, even if your knees shake. Decide that rejection will not define you. Your response to it will. Because transformation is not a singular event. It's a pattern of brave choices stitched together by action. It's not pretty. It doesn't trend. But it's the most honest kind of victory there is. It's when you finally understand that. You don't need everyone to believe in you. You don't need a guarantee. You just need a reason bigger than your excuses. You were not made for mediocrity. You were not built to hide behind fear. You were created to rise, to transform, to ignite every room you walk into. And that begins the moment you say yes to the fear instead of running from it. So here's the final truth of this chapter. You will be rejected. You will stumble. But you'll also rise. You'll rise with scars, with stories, with a fire in your bones that no one can dim. And that version of you, that transformed, unshaken, unbreakable version, that's who's waiting on the other side of fear. Quote to remember, rejection is simply redirection to something stronger, wiser, and more aligned with your truth. Part 5. The victory awaits. And now, here we are. After all the battles, after the trembling hands, the restless nights, the quiet breakdowns, and loud inner wars, we've arrived at a truth most people spend their whole lives avoiding. Fear isn't the enemy. It's the doorway. For so long, we've been taught to run from it, to shrink in its presence, to treat it like a wall that separates us from who we want to become. But what if I told you that fear is not a wall? It's a mirror that reflects the exact place where your growth lives. A mirror that doesn't mock you, but challenges you. And most importantly, a mirror that whispers, "Look closer. You were never weak. You were only hiding." Running towards your fear isn't glamorous. It doesn't come with applause. It won't get millions of likes or go viral on social media. What it does bring is transformation. The kind that no one can take away. The kind that quietly reshapes the very bones of who you are. Let's be real, it's not easy. Taking that first step toward what terrifies you feels like jumping off a cliff with no parachute. You don't know what's waiting. You don't know if you'll crash or fly. But you jump anyway. Because what's the alternative? Staying stuck in the same patterns? Living under the weight of what if? Regretting the things you never dare to try? There's a quote that deserves to be etched into your soul. Fear is temporary. Regret is forever. Unknown. And regret? It doesn't shout. It whispers at 2 a.m. It lingers behind your eyes when you look in a mirror. It eats away at your confidence like rust on steel. But here's what people forget. Fear fades. Fear bends. Fear bows to action. You don't kill fear by waiting for it to leave. You kill fear by daring to move anyway. And when you do, when you walk into the fire, you discover something the comfort zone will never teach you. You are far more powerful than you ever imagined. Not because you never failed, but because you refuse to let fear have the final word. Let me tell you what victory actually looks like. Victory isn't the trophy. It's not the applause. It's not even the outcome. Victory is waking up every day and saying, "I will not let fear write my story." Victory is hitting send on the email you were too afraid to write. Victory is saying, "I love you," when you might not hear it back. Victory is applying for the job that feels out of reach. Victory is facing the fear and moving anyway. And what happens on the other side? Yes, it's success. Yes, it's strength. Yes, it's resilience. But more than that, it's peace. The peace that comes from knowing you gave it everything. The peace that silences the what-ifs. The peace that allows you to stand tall, even when you fail, because at least you tried. You will never know how strong you are until being strong is your only choice. Bob Marley. And if you ever think you're not ready, not brave enough, not capable, look back at the path you've already walked, the fears you've already faced, the versions of yourself you've already outgrown. That person who doubted themselves, they got you here, but they don't get to lead the next chapter. Because this chapter belongs to someone new, someone forged by fire, someone who no longer flinches in the face of fear, but grins, knowing they've seen worse and survived. That's your power. That's your edge. That's your victory. So when the next challenge comes, and it will, when fear creeps in again, and it always does, don't retreat. Don't shrink. Don't stall. Run toward it. Because by now, you know the truth. The fear you're facing, that's the exact place where your victory lives. And maybe, just maybe, fear wasn't your enemy all along. Maybe fear was your teacher, your compass, your test. And now you've passed. You've broken the chains. You've walked through the fire. And you've emerged not perfect, but powerful. So own it. Own every scar. Own every shaky step. Own the fact that you ran toward what others run from. And when you look in the mirror tomorrow, I hope you see what I see. A warrior, a storm chaser, a fear breaker, a victor. Because victory isn't coming. It's already here. You're living it. Final quote to remember. Fear knocked. Courage answered. No one was there. Anonymous. With that said, thanks for watching, and until next time.